Well, build my gallows and build them high. Makes a long time climbing before I die. I want the chance.
Good evening and welcome to Longbangers in association with Leith Spirits, our new partner, sponsor, Colin.
We'll call it partner, yep.
Call it partner. Sounds excellent. I'll be your temporary host for at least the next sort of half hour while Matty is rescuing cats out of trees or stuck in traffic or some sort of combination of the two. I'm joined tonight by Colin.
Evening.
Colin, how are you? You good?
I'm okay. I'm good, thanks. Hi, how are you?
I do you know, to be honest, I'm flapping a wee bit because I've been given the reins while we do this this podcast tonight, especially with our new, did we say partner? Did we agree on partner?
Yeah, definitely partnership.
Yeah. So trying to make the best go of it as possible, and we are also joined by former Hibs goalkeeper Adam Bogdan. Adam, how are you?
I'm good, thank you very much, and thank you for having me. It's a pleasure.
Sorry, Adam. That was me jumping in there. Carry on.
No, I just said like it's always a pleasure to be on the show, and especially with Hibs. You know, I had such a great time there. So yeah, I'm looking forward to talking to you.
Thank you. What I was going to say there when I rudely interrupted was a big shout out to Kenny Miller, who I believe helped put this together for us. So thank you very much, Kenny. As part of the research that we've done for this, Adam, we were kind of having a look at your Wikipedia page, which I think is a lot of go-tos for most people, but we were having a look at some other things like interviews that you've done with Liverpool Echo, some Daily Motion YouTube videos of some of your career highlights and things. And I thought that the way that sort of panned out was that, well, it was actually, there was a lot of interesting information on there, and we'll get into that a little bit. But I thought one of the ways that we might approach this chat with you is talk to us about your early career, how you got involved in football back in your homeland.
Right. Well, you know how we started is basically we always played football, you know, next to our apartments, and how I got into the goal is basically I loved diving about. I loved diving into the sofas and the couch. I loved diving into mud, and my father just saw some talent in it because he said, like, rather than I'm kicking the ball back, I always try to, you know, dive on it and catch it. And one of my early memories is when we played with the kids around the block. You know, there was always bigger kids, and they just put me in the goal, and they said to me, listen, if you're going to save this 2v1 situation, we're going to give you all these basketball cards that we have to you. And I said, that's brilliant. You know, I didn't own any of those cards yet. And to receive the collection, I thought it was brilliant. So I saved it. And that was the first realization that, okay, I didn't expect myself to do it, but somehow, you know, unintentionally or somehow I knew what's going on. I saved the 2v1 situation, and yeah, it was like a sort of like, okay, I can do this, but I never got the cards. They disappeared. So there was no reward at the end of it then, and yeah, so you know, I loved playing football. I loved all kinds of sports. I've gone into the elementary school, and our school was big on handball. It's not too big in the UK, but it's an Olympic sport, and it's quite big in the mainland in Europe. And I loved it. You know, I played outfield. I was pretty good, you know, with my hands, like throwing and scoring goals. And then the football started because my little brother's team needed a goalkeeper for my age group, and I started playing, and I was pretty good at it. And after 1 year, I had a couple of offers from bigger teams, and then it was always a question of handball or football, and sometimes I played the half, and then I went for the handball game, you know, and then the pressure just grew on my parents, to be honest, because there was always questions from the handball parents, is he going to stop the football, and the pressure from the other parents? Like, you have to decide which route he's going to take. And I think in the end, it was my father who sort of pushed me to the direction of football, because it was always more in it. And in Budapest, for example, the handball sort of stopped for a while. And if you wanted to play in a good level, you would have to move down to some of the big teams, but they are in the countryside. And also because I was quite a late developer, being always tall, but like I was late to mature. Handball is quite physical, so is football, but it's probably a little bit more. And I didn't get as much success as I would do in football. Having said that, there was some hard times while I've sort of catched up with my age group in terms of development, but eventually it sort of paid off, the decision, and so that's the early years.
What age were you when you had to make the decision to stick to football? You in your teens, or?
Yeah, it was sort of like, when you finish elementary school in Hungary, that's about when you're 14, 15. Right. So towards the end, I was when I was like 13, 14, I was more football and occasionally, handball. But that's the decision, 14, 15, when you sort of have to, when I went to high school, that's when and I had to make a decision. And sometimes I felt like I regretted a little bit, because handball, especially when I was younger, was easy for me. I could see everything, and that's how I never really felt that way in the goal. That happy, that sort of careless, because being in a goal is a totally different mindset and responsibility.
Did you ever play outfield at football, or? Once,
but only because we were not. Our team was, we didn't have enough players, and I scored actually. But I was young. I was very young, and I can still feel when I play football. I love playing football, and I would be probably a little bit more talented than like an average person. But when it comes to like football players, I can use my physicality. I can, go up and header, and I can really fight for it, because I give always everything. But I'm not. I can feel I'm not talented. There's nothing extraordinary in me when it comes to like playing.
Have you ever played in any squads with other goalkeepers that think they are an outfield player, like they could play, and then they go outfield and then sort of find out that they're not?
You mean like have I been
like any other, like when you go goalkeepers? So there's usually 2, 3 in a squad. Is there always one that thinks, in the 5-a-side, I'll go outfield. I'm as good as any of those guys?
Yeah, there is, but I think nowadays there would be more, I would say, because there's more, you need to play with your feet a little bit more. Back then it was like you shouldn't really touch the ball kind of thing. So, but of course some of them loved it. But in England, none of them really sticks out.
They say that. I think the way I'm thinking at the moment, I think it's Liverpool and the Man City keepers at the moment. They reckon they could play.
They could. 100%, especially Ederson. I would say that Ederson has got the size of it as well. Like, I think Alisson is a little bit. Of course, he could play, but he's probably not as vibrant. Or I don't know, not as quick. He's quick. Don't get me wrong, but like I would in a outfield, I wouldn't think that he could do it. Technically, he's unbelievable. But I would say Ederson for sure, 100%. He's magnificent, man.
So I think we talk about it all the time at Hibs, distribution and keepers and all that kind of stuff. It's a big.
You don't like the new part of.
I always just say no. There's a growing band. Probably folk that have watched Ederson and that playing down there. I think a goalie's meant to be able to do what an outfield player does. Whereas I just want a goalie that makes good saves, and if they can pick a pass now and again, I'm happy with that. But
it's not where it's going now, is it? It's not where it's going. We talked a lot about this with my mates, and then maybe a little bit of jealousy is talking out of me. But nowadays, I think if a keeper is really good with his feet, he can get away with a lot of stuff if he's not very good with his hands.
Agree.
But if you're not very good with your feet, you can get away with being just good with your hands. So I think it's a little bit sometimes over, like, we went overboard now. But I mean, ideally, but you have to pay 50 million or 60 million to get like Alisson, and you get an all-round keeper. But yeah, definitely yes, that's a trend, and it is it is a danger that you're losing those keepers, that they can come out and catch the cross or catch a ball. You don't really see that anymore as much as you
punching it away and stuff rather than catching it when you think you could catch that. But no, it's just funny because it's a debate that we have regular on the podcast with tweets coming in and stuff that about distribution and I go on about it all the time now because of that. But I just wondered what a goalie thought. So no, it's interesting because I totally agree. I think a goalie gets away with, if they can kick the ball well, they get away with not being able to make as many good saves. I'm just having to move because the lights have went off.
Second time.
It's light sensors. It's like movement sensors. So
just keep moving. Keep moving.
I know. Keep walking about. Anyway, John, do you want to go back to where we were? I've taken it off track.
Well, actually, I was going to ask because there was an interesting point that Adam brought up there with regards to handball. And as part of my research before this, I was checking out the national sport of Hungary, and excuse me, football and water polo was mentioned. And I was reading earlier today as well that Peter Cech, since he retired, has been playing part-time for ice hockey teams. And I thought it'd be interesting to find out what you've been up to. So I was reading that you finished up with, I think, Ferencváros 2023. So are you currently without a club? And what is it that you're doing to keep yourself busy?
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I'm probably all... myself and everybody else sort of like to announce that I'm retiring. I haven't done it yet because I need to find, there's a couple of good videos out there, and it would be nice to put together a professional sort of announcement on Instagram that don't have many good ones, but there's a couple of good saves out there, and maybe put it in a nice video and then sort of announce it that I'm finished. And also, it's a little bit in me that when you say it's finished, it is finished. Although I know I'm done, but I just haven't had the maybe the courage yet to announce it. And but I played tennis a lot. Had a really good summer. We went to a lot of places. I could eat, I could drink, whatever I wanted. It was fun. And then I started to do the goalkeeping badges in Hungary with the UFA goalkeeping B. But I also started to do the sport directorship. That's in London through the PFA business school. And that's very interesting. And I think it's going to get harder now because we just got an email of, it's like a university degree, the master degree. So you have to have a proper go at it, and it's I don't think it's going to be easy. So I always wanted to start to do the courses, but pretty soon I will need to apply for jobs and do it, because it's been good for the last 5 and 6 months. I traveled to a lot of places. I went back to Liverpool. I went to Edinburgh. I went down to London to see some friends. And but now I feel like I've been to Holland as well for a month at AZ Alkmaar. That was very interesting, and it was a good month to spend there and see how they train and what they do right. And actually could be a good one for Hibs as well, in terms of the sizes of the clubs and how they put a lot of effort into youth and a lot of money into youth, and how they then set it on or play them in the first team. But that's probably the one that excites me and interests me the most, to how to run a football club. And it's not going to be an easy and a quick way to get into a football club. I think I can do it, but to get to a level to have a saying on how it's run, that's going to take years. And There's also a little bit of a question where we're going to be, because I'm currently in Budapest. I can imagine living in Edinburgh. I can imagine living in England as well. But it's all up in the air now. So the next couple of months, I hope that's going to be resolved. And I'm just basically talking to myself, because I'm the one who's responsible for this, which is a new thing, because normally when you play football since I was 8 and 9, you always have a schedule. And now I'm responsible for my own schedule to it's an interesting one. And also the fact is that I always thought it would be easier to hang up the gloves and the boots, but it's not that easy. Especially when they put out like the Beckham movie on Netflix, and then you realize that
you're a long time retired. You're a long time retired, aren't you? And you're only in your mid-30s or late 30s now, aren't you? 30s.
I'm 36. I'm 36. Yeah.
So you're quite young for a goalkeeper to retire. Did you pick up a few injuries or something that made the?
I picked up a lot of injuries.
That's an exclusive that you've just told us you've retired. So that's the announcement made. There's no need for a video. You've just done. but was it sort of injuries that made you go a bit earlier than you would have?
Listen, it's a combination, because I always had a lot of injuries, and I always had like a stop-start situation in my career. I always, had good games, then I got injured, then I came back, I played, had some good games, bad games, then got injured again. It's a similar story. For one of the reasons why I'm so grateful for Hibs is obviously because they're in one of the best cities in the UK, if not the best cities in the UK, and the nicest. We lived in a nice area. We absolutely loved it. But football-wise, they give me a chance to come back after a year and a half out, with my knee. And I played the 6 months. I think I did okay, and I really enjoyed my football again. I was so happy. And then I've got a concussion, in January, which was the third one in my career, and therefore I think it lasted longer than it's supposed to, and it was frustrating. So with me, it was always. I could never really have like a full season, and the frustrating thing is sometimes it's not due to form, sometimes it's injuries, and I came home during the COVID, because I had a good offer from Ferencváros, and they had an idea to build a good team, which they did. We went to the Champions League, we went to the Europa League 2 times. But I was mainly second choice. I played a couple, especially after the first year, I played enough games to get into the national team. I went to the Euros, which was amazing, because we had 2 games in Budapest against France and Portugal. And it was like a dream come true. We have like a 70,000 stadium, brand new. It's always packed. It's full. The national team is absolutely loved. And to be able to be with those guys who are, I don't know, because it was 1-1 the last time I checked. But if they get a point in Bulgaria, they are qualified for the 3rd time in a row for the Euros. Was fantastic. In the second season, I played games, and I played in the Europa League against Celtic at home, which was, again, for me, was a big achievement, because coming of course from Scotland, we know how big of a team it is, and also to play in the Europa League, it's something I haven't done yet. But the last season I didn't play enough, and my contract was basically coming to an end, and they had a keeper who is younger, is talented, and he was ready to come in, which was fine by me. And then I set up this sort of criteria in me that I would, if I carry on, I would like to play. But then I'm being so picky. I also had criteria to live in an area where I wanted to live. So adding all together, it was not quite realistic to go to a team and play. And then I kind of come to a conclusion is that I played in big teams. I finished it back in Hungary with a big team. We won the league, 3 times in a row. And from here, where do you go next? And I don't think I could have gone to teams where it would add value to my career.
Yeah, no, I get that. See, you mentioned their concussion. It's a thing I talk about. I played rugby when I was younger, and so I still watch the game. And I think football doesn't treat concussion seriously enough. You're saying you've had 3 there. Do you think it was the sort of protocols or whatever you want to call them around it?
The first one was back in Hungary when I was 18. It wasn't really a protocol. It was a bad one because I was throwing up. I didn't know where I was, and then they just sort of sent me home. The second was in England against Brighton, and that was protocol for sure. They did protocol, and they substituted me, and I was fine. I was sort of coming back. It took me, I was out for a week or 10 days, whatever was protocol. But the third one at Hibs was an absolute weird one because I've done it against in a cup game, the last 10 minutes of the game, and I knew I lost a little bit consciousness. So I said to the referee, "Listen, I think I was out for a couple of. I'm not feeling, great." So coming off, the next day and the third day, I was fine. I was at home, and then, like 5 days later, I thought, like, okay, I'm gonna start training because I'm fine. And then as soon as the Friday session came, we did like small-sided games. But honestly, I was fine until then, and I started to feel this nausea, this not feeling great. And then, of course, then I had like 10 days out. Then I come back, and that's when Lenny left and Hackingbottom came in, and I started training, and I was okay, but it still felt weird. So I ended up like missing, like I think like at least 6 weeks or 7 weeks, and I wasn't great, even in the summer. Like it's a very, very strange one. To have these head injuries, and somebody who's not been through it like a couple of times, they won't understand it, because when you look at me, you wouldn't even see that I have something. Yeah. But I know that I've changed, and I know I'm getting tired, and I know that. So these things, of course, add to making a decision of maybe not risking for everything. If you can risk it for a team, if you keep playing in a good level, you keep getting paid good, but maybe not risk it, especially if I have plans after football where you need to use your brain. Maybe it's not advisable at 36. Yeah, you were 29, 30, maybe of course, but 36, I think it's you can go on physically as well. It takes harder and harder, but I think this is the limit where a lot of people retire, and they can maybe live in a decent life after. Where if you get the good contract, you go on for another year, you stay in the club, you go for another one, and you can carry on. It's no problem. But I think everybody is different. And the kid inside me that wanted to be a football player, wanted to play in the Premier League, and wanted to do, I have to sort of talk to him and say, "Listen, you're 36. You had this career. Just stop being a kid and get excited every time I watch a Premier League game, or I go to the stadium." Yeah.
We've talked about your early career, how you got into football, and we've kind of talked about, and you've given us that world exclusive that you've hung up the gloves. Could we talk about that middle period, specifically your time at Bolton, going on loan to Liverpool, and how you ended up at Hibs?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, going to Bolton was a dream come true. Where I played in Hungary, and that era, like the late 90s and the early 2000s, sort of going into 2006, 7, was horrible. Like, it's so underfunded. Wasn't really a way out of it. You could always hear these stories of, oh, he was talented, but the manager was a dickhead or something, he couldn't get in, or the other one, he ended up going out a lot and you missed him, or the third one, he got injured because the pitch was shit, or he couldn't practice because the lights were not on, that nobody paid any for the lights, for electricity, sorry. So there's a lot of just bad stories, just a bad atmosphere, and it was a very few people could, if you wanted to make it, you have to get out of Hungary. And it's a very few of them have made it out. Thankfully, there were a couple, and especially, us going into the EU in 2004 sort of opened the possibilities to say, okay, this is possible, because until then, it was hard to get into the UK. it wasn't impossible, but it still was really hard. And that's the time in 2004-5 where I sort of grew. I got taller, I got stronger, I got into the national team under 19, then going to the under 21 team, and I could see. We always watch, Premier League games with my father, at Sunday or Saturday at the lunch table, and you had like Zoltan Giro at West Bromwich, Gabor Kirali at Crystal Palace, a couple of more players playing in the Premier League, and I said, okay, wow, this is possible. So it is, but I know these guys, they've done it. So there was a huge motivation for me to get out and play in England or play in the UK. And when I played in under 21s, I did well. We have an agent who I think knew the guy who was the sporting director at Bolton, and he organized a trial because Bolton was looking for a keeper with sort of that age, that size, and I got into the trial and I did well, and they signed me. And that's when after the first excitement of okay, I've done it. I made it out, and I have a chance to fulfill my dreams and play in the Premier League at home. Then I realized like I'm nowhere near the level of where I should be. I was quite confident because technically I was okay, but I was skinny, slow, not fit at all compared. And we had on top of this, my goalkeeping coach Fred Barber was very innovative. He had a really clear idea how his goalkeeper wants to look like, and was Jaskalainen. He was there for a long time, but he was also very old school in some ways and very tough. And I was the youngest, so I used to die every session, or he made me die. Like start again, too slow, start again. Takes me out in the afternoons into the sand. There's like a sand pitch, and then dives. So it's really horrible experience at the first at least 6 months, but I would say maybe the first year. But I played in the reserves, and they trusted me, and they put a lot of effort in me. And what I try to do is to copy Jaskalainen. Basically, I went to watch every home game, how he warmed up, how he did gym sessions. I was with him in the gym. How he did the half times. At the end of the first season, I was traveling with the first team. So I just try to observe and take everything in and take it as a golden opportunity to be able to, okay, if he's coming from Finland and he's done it through this guy, his goalkeeping coach. Well, as hard as it is, and as old school sometimes the guys, and he can pick on you. Yeah, but he's done it, so I have a chance to do it. And it's after a couple of years, was it 2010 was my debut. Yeah, so it takes me like 3 years, but I made my debut, and that's the biggest until that point, and even that's like, I would say, the top 3 achievements that I've done. Is something that is hard to explain, because until that point I was doing, back at home in Hungary, I have to do 100 press ups, every day. So sometimes, fall asleep and it's like, fuck, I haven't done the 100 press ups. So I started doing like 10 o'clock, 10:30, and it's every press up was there to, if you miss it, you're not going to make it to the Premier League. If you don't do it, you're not going to go to the Premier League. So fuck, I have to get out of the bed now. So my brother in the other bed, he was like, shut the fuck up, what are you doing? Like, I was like doing the press up, because it was just, I felt if I miss one, then my chance goes. And it was the same in every gym session in Bolton as well. Like, okay, if I can't hold it for another half a minute, there's my chance going. Like I was quite obsessed with this, and it happened. And yeah, and the next season, obviously, he usually was still first choice, but in January he got injured second time I think this season, and then I sort of stuck in the goal, which was an okay season for me. That's in 2012. I was the best player for that season, but we got relegated, and I still one of the biggest achievement I had to be voted for the best player in the Premier League team, but also the saddest day of my life in my career, because to have a relegation with the team that I looked up to so much to them, and to the whole club, it is a horrible feeling. Still is until today. But yeah, and that's, I guess that's how it is, and they're doing well now. I hope they come back to the championship. They're doing really well, and after that I had 3 seasons in the championship, and we were okay. We almost got to the playoffs in the first season, having started really badly, and yeah, I most of the time was first choice, but like I said before, I got injured many times, and I was in Andy Lonergan. He's at Everton now, but he was after that he went to Liverpool as well. Anyway, and we sort of played similar amount of games, but I ended up finishing the season always when I'm coming back from injuries, and I always did well towards the end. So I think that gave me the chance that my contract was finished with Bolton, and Liverpool came in, which again was a huge honor, and something that I think from that sort of championship team that wasn't doing great, and it was sort of like a mid-table championship team by then, to get a chance to play for Liverpool. I think I still have to convince myself, because I view Liverpool career as a failure, really. But if I'm thinking right, that's a good achievement, to go there and again to play not so many games, but a few games for Liverpool. It's incredible. If I look back where I started and where I'm coming from, to be able to play for Liverpool and have those games, and okay, 2 of those games were pretty bad. But there's
was one of them against Exeter by any chance?
Exeter was the second one, and the first one was Watford, the Premier League game. Yeah, so these things happen, and I wasn't. I think I'm too hard on myself, and during the games as well. So I always try to do everything perfectly, and the hardest bit for me is when I feel like I'm letting my teammates down and letting the fans down, or the people who watch me or whatever. And that's something I found really hard to come over it. And in a big team like that, you can't really, especially when like Liverpool or us, we were not in a good. It was a very up and down season, go to the Europa League final, go to the League Cup final, which I really hoped. One thing I really hoped that we're going to win, because I played 3 games in the League Cup. I was really hoping that we win that cup. We didn't. City won it at the end. But to allow yourself to see people see your emotions on your face, and feeling you can see that I was really down. I don't think you can do that with those top teams. And then I played one more game at the end because of the Europa League final, but I was sort of ready to go and try to get out even before, because of the Euros were coming in 2016, and being third choice at any club wouldn't give me the chance to go to the Euros, which I didn't go in the end. But after, I just thought, I can't be third choice. I worked so hard for playing, and then I jumped on the first opportunity, which was Wigan, to go on loan, and it was going fine at the beginning. We weren't in a good form, and then that's when I've done my knee in December or end of November. That sort of kept me out for another year, a year and a half, really.
What was the injury that you had?
It was an ACL, and
ACL.
it was a big one, yeah.
So what's it, before we get on to the Hibs bit, because that's what folk will want to hear about, but what's it like the life of a number 2 or a number 3 goalie in that case? Like, you get up, go to training every day. Like, how do you motivate yourself? What's it like?
I mean, it's a tricky one, because you're one of the most famous clubs, by being in Liverpool, and you're perfectly aware of this, that a lot of people would swap with you. And the training pitch is brilliant, the food is brilliant, the players are amazing. To go to the games, it's brilliant, but you still can't help but you feel like I'm just there. I can't affect anything, I'm not involved. I'm involved because I'm training, I'm traveling, but then you sit on the stand, and I think there's some age when you're happy to do it, when you're 19, 20, 21, first time when you come on, you're super happy to do this role, and also when you're older and you realize that you're there for being a good character, you're there for training, to give advice, your experience. But I was 28, I was 27, 28, and I wanted to play. And then you could be in any club, any big club, but you would feel a little bit left out.
Did you start doing 150 press ups, or start paying any more attention to detail, to think, if I do 150 press ups, I'm going to become the number 2, I'm going to become the number 1? Was there any sort of approach like that in your head?
No, I think no. And me, I was also probably not prepared to do that, because it took me so much effort to get there, and then to sort of, the first time in my career, get knocked back down. That was the first time I've ever experienced it, because in Bolton it was okay, it was slow progress, but I got there, I played, I sort of stayed first choice position, and then I made the step to Liverpool, and then I got dropped to a position or 2 positions back, and I thought of, no, okay, listen, I just need to play. I want to play, and I want to get back to the Premier League, but probably first I need to go and go to a team where they play me, where they trust me.
And then obviously, let's go into the Hibs bit, I suppose. So how did that all? Who was the manager? Did you say it was Neil Lennon?
Lennon, because he was a coach. He was with me in. I'm sorry, there's somebody just messaging. He was at Bolton as well, and it was an interesting time, and we had I had some really good games under him. Unfortunately, I was injured under him as well. I mean, nothing to do with him; it's more to do with me. But I think he liked me, and I think he rated me. And when Ofir Marciano he's done his finger, so he couldn't play for the first part of the season. I thought he's going to go for me, and it was incredible. I mean, the first time I walked out on the pitch of Easter Road, I thought, what a brilliant stadium, and I was almost finishing my career then, because of my knee was just kept blowing up, but there was nothing wrong with my knee in the MRI scans, and nothing. It just kept producing fluid, and now I'm playing in the Premier League in Scotland. I thought, wow, okay, my gratitude, and I'm so grateful for the opportunity. So I enjoyed every minute of it. Having said that, the game we played against Tripolis. The first game was in Easter Road, and I got a goal in the near post.
Yep.
And the second, I can't remember the second one, but anyway,
I think the second one was a long range effort.
Was it?
I think it was. Well, I was going to ask you about that, because You mentioned earlier about a couple of bad experiences at Liverpool, and I mentioned the one against Exeter where the ball was going straight in from the corner.
Yeah.
And I think there was a Liverpool supporting friend of mine that said, "Oh, Adam Bogdan's, he's a little bit not erratic." He said, there's maybe a couple of handling issues. So when you had that game against Triple East, and there's the long range effort, there was the near post effort. You think, oh, how good is this goalkeeper? But then to go back to what you were saying earlier about Instagram and highlights reels, there was the following game in Greece where you pulled off this unbelievable save. And I wanted to understand from a goalkeeper's perspective, and you mentioned there about with regards to, say, relegations, just how much responsibility do you feel as a goalkeeper, and how challenging is it as a goalkeeper when your perhaps number one quality is brought into question?
I don't know. Well, I mean, going back to the Triple game, and that's a good story of Neil Lennon. I think that helps to anybody to come on and then do the second game, because I can't remember the long range one. I don't think I could do much about it. Maybe, I don't know. I don't remember. I remember the near post one, and it was a bad one because I was there, but he, of course, expected a cross, and he just hit it in a very tight angle, just hit the near post for me unexpectedly, but I should have expected it, of course. And then we won the game 3-2. So the first thing, I got away with it a little bit, and then Neil Lennon comes into the dressing room, and then he goes to everybody and said, "Well done to do this and come back, and it was fucking magnificent effort," and blah blah blah. And he looks at me and he points me and he said, "You fucking owe us. You fucking owe us next week, yeah." So straight away it's I'm gonna play next week because he said it, but he also puts responsibility in my shoulder, but at the same time he trusts me with it. So for me that was wow, he didn't keep me in doubt, that because of course the biggest critic was always me, and I feel horrible when I do something that I don't think I should have done, or I should have done better with. And then he says this, and I think he was a massive part that I go onto the second game and producing those saves, and I was really focused, and because I felt the trust, I felt the responsibility, and I just wanted to pay it back,
Yeah. You've not sat and thought about it for a few days until you find out if you're in the team again. Worrying about not being in the team, you already know it's good bit man.
Yeah. So everybody needs managers or people around you that they trust you, because it's okay. So there's a lot of things that I can. It's about opinions, whereas you can say after the first game I'm shit because I was probably not the best, But then if somebody trusts you and put you in a second team and you say, "Wow, that was the best keeper. That's the best game we ever seen, or we haven't seen for a while. This sort of level." So it is always two sides of the coin, and really depends on what the manager trusts you or not. Same in Arsenal. He puts in what's his name? The Arsenal keeper now, the Spanish one.
Oh, I don't know his name. I know what you mean. I know the deal though. Was it Ramsdale that was in, and he's been replaced?
Ramsdale was in, and then he puts in the I forgot his name anyway. He made 3 mistakes in the first 3 games. He keeps him in. If he was Ramsdale, he would take him out because he doesn't trust Ramsdale as much as he would do with the other keeper. So it depends on how do you see somebody. And Neil Lennon saw me as a good goalkeeper, and that sort of got me over this sort of first hard period, like the first game. And after that, I think I've done okay and really enjoyed it. I've always tried my best.
It must be a nightmare for a number 2 keeper though, because so it's brilliant there. Your number 1 keeper, he's put his trust in you. He's got your back. you're playing next week. The number 2 keeper's probably sitting there going, when am I getting a game? Like, if he's still playing him after he's made, or not, I'm not talking about this specific example, but, in general, Ramsdale will be sitting down there at Arsenal going, he's made mistakes and I'm not getting a chance. But the other keeper's feeling great because he knows the manager's got his back. So it's a goalkeeping position, such a funny one. The number one goalie is the number one goalie.
When we talk about this, I'm really good, in my position now.
Yeah.
It's emotional. Honestly, it's horrible when you have like 2 goalkeepers who are pretty much similar age, similar, qualities. Maybe not the same qualities, but then it's just horrible because you don't want to wish him bad, but we don't want him to play good, because if he plays good, you're not going to have a chance.
Exactly.
Then you have a chance in a cup game with a weakened team, and then you might as well do. So it's not an easy position. So it is. When I was 22, 23, I enjoyed the first season being second choice and the first part of because I played in the cup games. I was doing really well in the training sessions, but I never really questioned that Jaskarainen should play or not, because I thought he was always brilliant. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, but the team wasn't doing well. I'm doing well in cup games. Then it's easier. But when you already been a number 1 and then you got knocked back to number 2, then the ego comes in as well. So it's not an easy position. At the same time, you try to be a nice guy as well. You don't want to be a dickhead with anybody.
The goalies are always best pals, aren't they? They're always like,
we understand it's we understand it's a hard position. It's a horrible position, to be honest.
Yeah, I don't know why anybody would do it.
So your first spell with Hibs came to an end, and then, if I remember correctly, you had a brief second loan spell. Do you think we'll see you back at Hibs for a third spell, perhaps in a coaching role?
So the second one was a permanent one, and because my contract was finished with Liverpool. So the first season was brilliant. I still had the Liverpool contract. I was on loan to Hibs. Then we had we made so many friends. It was fantastic. And then I came back when Hackingbottom got sacked, or he left, and they called me and they said it looks like there's going to be changes, in the goalkeeping department as well, because again, names, I forget names, but.
I think Chris Maxwell. Chris Maxwell.
He's a good keeper. He's really good keeper, but he wasn't happy with not playing regularly, so he was about to move on. And I came in. I trained in December. Then I went away and I signed. And we were January, February, and then COVID came. And then after 13 years, I moved back to Hungary. And then Ferencváros offered me the contract from the June. So, am I ever going to be back at Hibs listen? I can imagine, and I could easily live in Edinburgh. So, in terms of location, it wouldn't be a problem. I need to do my badges, and I need to learn a lot. But this is a club that I could. If they ask me ever, I think I would say yes straight away.
Superb. Well, I think that's covered everything that I was going to ask. Colin, is there anything that you'd like to ask Adam?
I think you've been seeing at games and stuff, Adam. Have you been back watching?
I watched the Celtic game. Game at home. It was a pretty bad first half. For Celtic as well, because I think they just played against Atletico Madrid a couple of days before, and I think what I felt was Hibs wasn't playing good in the first half, but the second half was much better, and Hibs were playing really well. Some of the crosses. Boyle had the chance. It wasn't easy, but he could have nicked the winner, and. I think at the end we left pretty upbeat, and it was a good result.
It was.
Yeah, I've seen the highlights. I watch the highlights always. obviously I've just seen Josh Campbell scored a couple of goals and seen Rory Whittaker playing as well again. So yeah, I really would like to see. I think that could be. I always say this, but in any team, but I think especially Hibs point of view, the way could be the academy, and to have players make their way into the first team, and because I think that's when the connection with the fans and the whole community and everything would be at its highest. So let's hope that Josh doing really well and Rory's playing more. And you have a couple of more players coming through, and at the same time, the team still gets successful under this manager. I think there's some good signs. I don't know if you agree with me, but I've seen a lot of chances created, and hopefully the results, will follow.
Definitely.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much for your time, Adam. We really appreciate it. And we wish you every success in the next stage of your career. And if you're ever back in Edinburgh and going to see Hibs, definitely give us a shout, and we'll meet up with you for a drink or something.
Oh, brilliant. Thank you very much.
They trailed me down when I broke free. I drank all the whiskey in Tennessee. I don't drink what I know.